Welcome back to the Feminine Leadership Summit. I'm really excited and honored to introduce to you Spirit Halima. She is a perception adjuster, magnetism maven, intuitive decoder. Spirit Halima has supported thousands of women in reconnecting with the feminine power through female magnetism and heart-centered sexuality. As an empowerment mentor, Spirit is beyond passionate about the organic unfolding of women's greatest potential. She mentors clients around the globe in reclaiming their power and learning to receive as a woman. Spirit Halima is the creatrix of Sensual Charm, an online charm school that connects women with the power of femininity, sexuality, and creating delicious relationships. Welcome, Spirit.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's such an honor. It's awesome. So for anybody that doesn't know you or your work yet, will you just share a little more about your own kind of personal journey of how you got to be doing what you're doing?
Wow, this started off years ago when my father was actually dying with pancreatic cancer.
Hmm.
And from there, I went into trying to figure out why, how the body heals.
Hmm.
I was introduced to a lot of different healers at the time. So in that journey, I connected with so many different people who had healed from pancreatic cancer, from breast cancer, ovarian cancer, kind of different fibromyalgia. And so at that time, I had no clue about the mind-body connection.
Hmm.
So through this journey with my father, he ended up transitioning in 97. I started this researching, and from there, I started a radio show called The Cosmic Womb,
Hmm.
WOMB. So
Hmm.
that was a radio show where I had guests on healers, metaphysicians, spiritualists, all kind of phenomenal people.
Hmm.
I've interviewed Dr. Bruce Lipton,
Hmm.
Positive Belief, and Muji, and Dick Gregory, and phenomenal people around the world to discuss this aspect of healing the body, and just the heart, actually, the soul, the spirit. So
Hmm.
that was my initiation. It was a painful experience as my
Hmm.
father was transitioning, but that initiated me into this search, this quest. And from there, it just organically unfolded into knowing more about myself as a woman and sexuality. And that came from a painful marriage,
Hmm.
which is so many of our experiences, right? That
Hmm.
pain that triggers us to a deeper calling within. And that was my trigger, knowing more about who I was. And that turned into sexual energy, my life force energy creative. So that awareness connected me to that part of myself that was dormant. So from there, I studied the Jadic practices and other tantric practices and developed my own system that I've been teaching women for about 10 years now. So
Hmm.
that's how I got on this journey.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I relate a lot. My mom passed away about 8 years ago, and that was a huge catalyst for me um, to to open up and discover natural healing and energy and then sacred sexuality and all of that. So yeah, it's from those painful places, unfortunately, but really allows us to open up to those deeper kind of things that our soul is calling us into, right?
Absolutely, there's a beauty in it. There's a beauty there inside of the construction or the destruction, if you will. There's a beauty that comes as well. So,
Yeah, it's a gift.
mhm.
So yeah, curious for you, like finding this sexuality piece and reclaiming that and this kind of like connection with your womb. Um, how was that for you, and along that path, like why do you feel like that was so important for you and for women in general to discover and reclaim?
Mhm. This came out again. Comes from a painful place. So in my relationship with my husband, and he was 9 years older than me. I'm not sure if that is meaningful to say, but we just were unevenly yoked so far as sexuality, and so we had a lot of frustration and stress because I was never fulfilled, and it was just really. Realized that he was using sex to just relieve his tension and builds up stuff. And I decided I'm not going to be a dumping ground for that. I mean, I deserve to be pleasured and experience deep pleasure and orgasm. And if that's not something that you're going to be about, then we have to have a serious conversation. So we did, and we ended up ordering some books. And he was stressed out about it. It was trying to take some herbs to help himself. But I actually read the books, and in the in the books, I was learning stuff that I never even knew about. The ovaries, the hormones, and just the connection of the energy and breath and breast massage and breathing and all kinds of different things I had no clue about. So from there, that was like the opening. But what kicked me off the edge was after I left my marriage. There was the lover, the guru that really was my perfect mirror, and I have his permission to share this, so I don't want anyone to be offended by this. He said, share the story. He had an unusually small lingam, and lingam is a Sanskrit word for penis. And that really caused a different frustration, right? Of course, right?
Sorry, I'm not laughing at your troubles. I understand.
Can we get an amen over here? No. So in this experience, it caused a lot of stress. And so for me, this was the pain. This was the unraveling or the unwinding. Was he had this other girlfriend he compared me to, and how, quote unquote, tight she was and how great she was. And so all of that at that time was very painful to hear. But it initiated this part of myself. So this was a little bit of ego that got me on this path, right? So I ended up just taking my books. I ordered a jade egg, and I just delved into these practices. Now, what ended up happening along the way was I started to feel this energy in my body that I never felt before. I started to feel this warmth, this warming energy, and I began to have awarenesses and ahas about just life, if you want to call them downloads, if you will, but they were just aha moments. I started to have more confidence. I started to be more calm and have inner peace, and I felt really good within myself. I literally, at some point, I was like walking down the street, I was having these orgasms that were happening from my own energy. And I was like, that was really something for me. So I thought you needed something for that. I thought you needed someone. So, but no, it's right within. So it was just blowing. It was blowing my mind, right? And from there, it was just this mystique of the feminine was kind of whispering to me different insights that I now share with my clients about what it is to be a woman. And that changed everything for me. That connection that I created, that I developed with my womb, and listening to her and cultivating and making her a priority changed everything for me. So that my confidence elevated, my energy, I became more radiant, more vibrant. It was just had a ripple effect in every area of my life.
So powerful, so many parallels. And I'm just like, again and again, kind of like, I'm not surprised at this point, but it is always, kind of like, so good to hear another woman discovering this and that, I mean, we all have a unique journey with it and unique experiences, but there's like a through line, there's a science to it. It's like you do the practice and you get results, and we are all experiencing these similar kind of powerful results of discovering this power that lives inside our pussy.
Absolutely. It's like a shock because, my mother didn't sit me down and say, this is what it is. This is what you do. This is how you cultivate it. This is who you are. This is
Mm.
what you have. This is the sacredness that you have.
Yeah.
I didn't have that conversation. And I know many women didn't have this conversation. And that's why I have the conversation. So not only do other women have it, but now they can have that conversation with their nieces
Mm.
and their daughters and their granddaughters and their sons and their grandsons. This is very important for them to know as well.
Mm. Beautiful. So, you talk a lot about, like, kind of, if, you know, seen on your Instagram and everything, emotional states and attraction, like this link to, like, a woman's embodiment and frequency and inner world, and how that actually is a direct connection with the kind of man relationship or maybe other experiences that she's attracting. So I'd love if you want to dive into that.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the emotional temper tantrums women have. Was it that one?
It was like, I mean, why emotional well-being
Mm-hmm.
determines how you show up and what you receive in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that, emotions are energy in motion, and energy is the cause. It's not the effect. So, the how you feel and how you perceive, which directly affects how you feel, how you your perception of yourself. I say it's the holy grail.
Mm.
So if you have a very healthy sense of self and healthy emotional being, um, that you can modulate your own energy, right?
Mm.
And this all comes from this perception of self. It
Mm.
really comes down because you're going to filter your experiences different from, let's say, someone who is enthusiastic versus someone who is pessimistic. They have two different realities, two different world
Right.
perceptions, right?
Mm.
So this emotional well-being is really energy. It's a frequency,
Mm.
right? It is an elevated frequency when you're feeling confident versus when you're insecure.
Mm.
So if you're always in doubt, if you will, or secure about yourself or not feeling worthy inherently as a woman, as a being, it's just mathematics to determine that you're not going to draw to you, right?
Mm.
You're not going to draw to you someone who is going to be what you really quote unquote want, which is someone who sees you, who loves you, adores you. You
Mm.
can't have it because you don't feel it. You don't have it as an experience within yourself.
Mm.
Right. So we have to move information through the body. We have to own the experience. You have to own yourself. And that definitely adds to your emotional well-being. So these states of being is going to determine your perception and your experience. This is just really a very simple
Mm-hmm.
mathematic scientific formula, and we see how, like not always the most qualified um, people get the jobs, or the smartest people or the most educated. It's really the one who feels confident,
Mm.
who feels they can do it, they're not doubting themselves, they're not questioning their ability, their worth, what they deserve. They just go for it. While somebody else can have all the degrees, and for my clients, I have clients who are doctors, who are dentists, and they are going through what everyone else is going through emotionally with men, and connection to their own femininity. So that has nothing to do with it. It's your emotional well-being,
Mm.
your perception of yourself.
Mm.
If you're abandoning yourself, or if you are just trusting in life, you know, from those two states, you're going to have two different realities.
Mm.
You're going to attract to you different kinds of men who are going to support you. But your men are the mirrors. That's why I always say, people say, I want a soulmate. Well, first mate your soul. Let's mate your soul. Let's really mate it and love it and adore and just
Mm.
cherish. And then that will be, reflected in the outside world.
Mm. Powerful. I actually have one of your posts up here because I'm like, I want to read this out. It's so powerful. You said, the irony is that we've put a lot of weight on a monogamous penis, wanting a man to be faithful when we haven't been faithful to our own power wisdom, and worthiness.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Boom. Yeah, there was this meme this guy posted on Facebook, my Facebook friends. It was a man with his girlfriend, and there's this woman who had this nice, ass, and he's turning around looking at her, and the girlfriend's looking at him, and they say, "Well, what should she do? Like, what would you do?" I'm like, why is this a thing? And we have other things to really focus on, ladies. They're trying to manage someone's eyes and actions, And I think when we own that, we won't have these other experiences. It won't be a thing for us, but we fear it. And, fear, it creates a polarity for the thing feared.
Yeah.
So once you fear it, it's like you're saying, come to me, come to me, come to me, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. Really quickly, an experience I had of jealousy in a former relationship. And I didn't want to look at it for a while. And he was kind of just like letting it be. And then I was in a kind of a deep we were meditating together one time, and he had a crystal, and he was kind of like playing with his crystal, and he named it Crystal. And I suddenly kind of just like balked at this crystal, like it was like another woman on my man. It was very strange. And he was like, "Why are you like being mean to this thing that loves me?" And then I just like burst out crying. I was like, "I don't want to deal with jealousy." And I was like dropped back into this memory of like 5 years old, my dad having an affair, and then my mom, kicking him out, and somehow I all made it mean that I wasn't good enough to keep his attention. And getting like the root of whatever that fear is, so powerful. And usually, in some way it goes back to our inner child, I believe, and just like loving and nurturing that little one inside of us. But yeah, owning like the uncomfortable like stuff that we'd rather not be seen in. It's really powerful.
Big girl stuff. We gotta put the panties on and just really tell.
Yeah. So this is called the Feminine Leadership Summit, and I'm curious what feminine leadership is to you.
It is engineering and designing a paradigm, a reality that supports that supports the evolution, the unfolding, and then the embodying of gods and goddesses. That's really is creating a reality where everyone's soul can thrive and be fully expressed, and then we can have our children be cultivated and enriched from just before they even get here and raise them as gods and goddesses, and then creating the systems and the quote unquote governments and all of that reflects that higher level of consciousness. It is really in that engineering of that paradigm that I see leadership, the feminine leadership, really taking that stand, and that can also mean at the same time deconstructing the old paradigm. I think that's going to happen when you focus on the new paradigm. But do not be afraid to back down and say, okay, if something has to, there's all kind of goddesses, right? So we have the goddess Heteru of beauty, but you have also the goddess of Kali and Sekhmet, which like the goddess of destruction and fire, right? So there's an intelligence to how the feminine leadership is evolving. And I think it's getting deeper and more authentic as we're becoming more authentic and stepping into our power. I think essentially it's creating the consciousness and inspiring the infrastructure or the systems that can really take our children into gods and goddesses and get we exist in programs. So if we can program the God, just install the God and Goddess program, right? That is essentially it in a nutshell.
I love that. Yeah, because we've been so kind of deprogrammed from our own kind of, when I hear you say like God and Goddess program, I kind of even just hear like our sovereignty, our inner authority, being able to like trust ourselves and listen to that kind of like knowing and wisdom. And we've been so trained to go outside of ourselves for God, for yeah, so that's powerful. Thank you.
I love the word sovereignty. I really resonate with that sovereignty piece, because it says it all. Sovereign beings.
Yeah. And being a sovereign being also means respecting other people's sovereignty. We don't need that paradigm anymore of kind of like saving each other. We're all sovereign beings to support each other, to know that we can go within. So
Absolutely.
Was there something else that came up for you there?
No, I was just saying absolutely.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
that's a big one. It's like saving other people. And I also say that when I speak of creating a paradigm where all souls can unfold and be fully expressed and acknowledged, I really, at the same time, we all experience different realities. We all don't experience the same reality. Like right now, like the fish and the ant, they have two different realities. So not every human is going to experience the same reality, even though you may live, quote unquote, right next door to them. So really about being, how you want your world to look, how you want your world to feel, taste, touch, and then create that for yourself and others.
Yeah. My last question is, why now? Why is it so important for us to step into our feminine leadership now?
This is all there is. This is it. You know, when else were when else are we going to do it? It has to be now, right? Whatever we decide to do, it has to be now. So, I mean, I can look at socially aspects that I see that are unfolding. But I would just say that now is the only time it can be done.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
I know that you have a gift that you're putting together as well.
Yes, and that's going to be, I'm offering a 15 minutes session with me, complimentary, for women who want to ask questions, tap more into their femininity, more into their sovereignty. Absolutely, they can actually schedule a sovereign session with Spirit Halima.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, such an honor to have you. And I know everybody listening that there's probably a lot percolating for you in that. I feel like I'm going to go back and like rewind and write down some of those powerful pieces that you shared, especially about just like honoring our sovereignty and stepping into our feminine leadership. We'd love to hear what comes up for you, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.